All right, so this is section 3 of chapter 1, and in this section, we will talk about the research process in psychology that expands upon the 5 steps of the scientific method described earlier in this chapter. But before we do that, it's important that we make a distinction between qualitative and quantitative data. These being two broad categories regarding the sort of data that is collected by psychologists. So quantitative research contains the root word quantity. Thus, quantitative research refers to data that comes in the form of numerical scores, of numbers. So size, magnitude, duration, amount, anything that can be captured in a number is considered quantitative data. Now, there are many advantages to using quantitative data. For example, you can perform mathematical calculations on quantitative data and submit these data to statistical analyses. So in some ways, quantitative data or quantitative research is more objective and may feel more scientific. However, some might say, look, quantitative data are great, but in psychology, some of us care about the human experience. And the human experience can't always be captured by numbers. Sometimes language may be better equipped for dealing with and conveying the nuances of human psychology. So qualitative data usually involves some sort of observation and narrative reports, which are stored as words and sentences and stories, as opposed to numbers. So for example, Jane Goodall, who's famous for her work studying chimpanzees in the wild, would observe chimpanzee behavior and describe what she saw using language as opposed to numbers. So again, an example of qualitative research, qualitative data. So again, quantitative refers to numerical data, and qualitative refers to data in the form of language and narrative reports. Okay, and finally, we have the research process broken down into 10 steps. And the course will be structured around these 10 steps, and there will be many chapters that correspond to different steps in this process. So let's just go over these briefly. Again, each of these steps will have its own chapter, but we'll have a brief overview at this point of the course. So step 1, find a research idea. Select a topic, search the literature, find unanswered questions. Okay. Step 2, form a hypothesis. And a hypothesis is a tentative answer to your research question. And so chapter 2 will talk about the formulation of hypotheses. Step 3, determine how you will define and measure your variables. So chapter 3 will talk about this process in detail. Step 4, identify the participants or subjects in your study and plan for their ethical treatment. Very important. We'll talk about ethics in chapter 4. Step 5, select a research strategy. Step 6, select a research design. Step 7, conduct the study. Get your hands dirty, collect some data. Step 8, evaluate the data. Run some kind of analysis to make sense of the data that you have. Step 9, report your results to the world. And step 10, refine or reformulate your research idea in the context of these findings that you have now acquired. So again, these are the steps in the research process, and this course will be organized around these steps. Okay, I'll see you in Chapter 2.